Hey everybody, and welcome to another RCT2 review. Today we are looking at Macaw. This is a recent design winner on New Element with a score of 92%, one of the highest design scores of all time. And we are joined today by Steve himself. So welcome, sir.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me, man.
So you've been making the talk show rounds here. You were on Sammy's channel earlier, which I'll link below, and now you're here. So congrats on this win. What's your thoughts? Happy to be done with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of great to get to talk to Sam and to really kind of just have it out there and get to talk about it in general. It was kind of a passion project, so to get to speak with you about it now, it's great. It feels good. I'm happy to be done, but also I kind of miss it.
So this was originally a New Element Design Challenge entry, and you wanted to take a little bit longer to, spruce it up, make it what it needed to be. So you just released it later, which I'm happy you still did that. So this layout is one that Pacific Coaster made, and then you just themed the crap out of it. So, what led to this concept, theme, all that kind of thing?
Well, right. So it was originally supposed to be a part of that contest. That started back in February, I think. And I wanted to enter, but even with the 3, 4 months that we had, I wasn't quite there yet. I wanted to give it a little bit more oomph, a little bit more context, and it wasn't really within the parameters of the contest. So I I didn't want to send it out in a manner that I didn't find satisfactory to my own needs. So I just held on to it. I said, you know what, it's okay. I don't need to enter. I'd rather do it how I want to do it. So ended up just adding some more tile, spending more time on it. I think the end results was hopefully worth it. I mean, I like it.
It's interesting, I feel like all of your parks have a very, distinctive Steve style. Obviously, there's the Steve trees for anybody who's uninitiated. It is these trees right here. But besides that, I feel like all of your parks have this just like fantastic sort of atmosphere and color saturation and density and all of that. Is it something that you just inherently build that way, or do you go into it thinking that you're going to build in a certain way?
Maybe aside from the Lombardy trees that are the steep trees, I don't really make too much of a conscious effort to do it. I like to have an atmosphere in all of my parks. I typically try to choose like a theme or a setting that's going to cater to that a bit. Something is probably going to be a bit more like tropical in climate when I build it because that's just what I like, and I think it has the most kind of atmosphere. And with this one, I kind of went off of the idea of the animal kingdom area that they're building. They're replacing like dinosaur and like all of that area with South America. So I kind of took that concept art and ran with it a little bit. I thought that kind of suited the overall idea pretty well. So, I mean, other than that, I don't really try to do anything like a Steve trope necessarily. It just kind of happens.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think this is a good theme anyway because it allows you to do sort of the nice architectural style that is very warm in palette typically, but then you can throw in sort of these interesting colors like these blues and then your bright flowers and everything. It's a good mix of just sort of pleasant colors and everything else. And I feel like you've adapted to, I guess, what you consider the new NE meta pretty well with all of the pathway crunch and the just stuff everywhere, but it doesn't end up being too busy. We can really get in here and even break down individual scenes and peep gatherings and all sorts of stuff there, but it's still pretty readable, I think, in my opinion.
Right, yeah. I think the one of the driving factors of, I mean, maybe not a factor, but one of the things I really wanted to set out to do was ever since Andrew kind of set that standard with Belle Isle of the pathways, the planters, it just felt so real, and I wanted to achieve that too. I know I kind of maybe touched on it with things like within Head to Head 10, our last contest with New Element, but I feel like I really wanted to flesh it out a bit more here and really kind of amplify it in the way that Andrew did. So pathways, crunch, all the planters, the trees. I think it came across okay.
Yeah, and I love, all the just kind of discovering all the new uses for things like the invisible color here with this awning around the carousel, and just the continued kind of grid breaking cheese grid breaking, where it's just this doesn't even feel like it's on a grid. It's just sort of here in such a natural form, all these half diagonals and curves and things like that. Have you found it a sort of a natural adaptation to get to using this kind of stuff?
It was definitely a learning curve. Again, with the other contests, like head-to-head 10 with the new element, it was a nice kind of practice. I think the efficiency kind of ramped up a little bit with that to help me here. So it was still a step up, I think. A lot of the curves, a lot of the half diagonals, I certainly tried to go out of my way to break the grid a little bit because players like Andrew, Hydroportal, Barnet, they all really do very well with kind of putting things just there without making it seem it's within the confines of the game on that grid. So I really did try to achieve that with like the show buildings, the pathways, the architecture, maybe not so much. The facades, they're pretty linear, but otherwise, I wanted to make sure everything else was pretty off grid.
Well, and I think it works really well, especially with sort of these larger show buildings. And I like that you tend to do this sort of realism style where you have that Disney esque influence, I guess, where you have the kind of nice facade with the giant hidden show building, like this big dark ride here, or the other station and queue and gift shop and stuff behind this giant facade. So it works pretty well, I think, to reinforce the park feel, but still, it's easy to fall into that trope of just having a giant rectangle that's gray in the back of your park, and I think these work pretty well to break that.
Right. Growing up, I really only had kind of the basis of Disney. I always grew up going to the Disney park, so of course that's what I like to build within the game. So it kind of all meshes very well with me. The tropical setting, like Florida, Disney, and getting to kind of have realism, but also really highly detailed, like facades and the backstage areas. So it's kind of cool to translate the things that I grew up with into kind of building them for myself. And so, yeah, I really like to do that kind of style.
Yeah, I think it definitely reads through to everything. You can definitely tell sort of that Disney influence and the look and feel of everything. You definitely have that kind of good vibe to it. There's lots of these little like just kind of hidden clickable stuff, which I always say I really love to see, just because it just gives it an added level of complexity and depth. Like you can enjoy this and look at it, watch the coaster go and pan around and call it a day, but it's really kind of a disservice to not go around and click on all the little things and everything. Do you have a couple of favorites that you really like?
I do like that one that you're on right now. There's a bit of an inside joke within the New Element community from I think it was from Head to Head 10, where someone made a park, I forget which one it was, where they included dragons and they needed dragons for an Asian theme. And if they did include the dragon, it would be 85% an elite status on the website. So I think that one's kind of funny, but I mean, I love all the scenes. There's one hanging on the brake run of the coaster. He's like falling off the mechanic. And I don't know. I just love the Peep editor now. Ever since contests, getting to use the Peep editor, all the plugins, the scenery manager. It's over the last few years, it's been such a game changer. It's been awesome.
I think the trouble I run into with that is it's a game changer, absolutely, and it's just incredible how much you can do. But at the same time, I find that it takes just absolutely ages to do anything, and I guess that's why you can knock out something like this, which isn't a gigantic map, but it still takes a little while. Do you find that it's still pretty easy for you to kind of plop all that down if you have a good vision in your head, or does it really take some time for you?
I think it would take it does take a bit of time. I always think back when somebody mentions it being kind of tedious. I don't really like to use that word, maybe. I think it was FK Coastermind on New Element once said about one of my other parks that it seemed meticulous. And I feel like that's probably a bit more of an apt description because I don't find that it's like busy work. I just find that it's very very detailed, it's very ornate, or it's very in depth with all the different materials, textures, anything that you're using to build the park. It means that you put a lot of thought into it, and I think that's probably a better way of looking at it. But it's always not easy. It's certainly can be a test of my patience finding the right objects, including crunch using the plugins. But I still like to think that hopefully the end result ends up paying off.
Yeah, I think this is a good little vignette right here. These ceiling fan objects, I feel like we haven't seen those used terribly often because you can't really look up in the game. You're always have that kind of top down isometric view, and it's kind of done really well here to really get a good vibe of this sort of open air dining that has this nice cover on it, or this little bit of the particulate crunch over here with the truck or the waterfalls here. Just lots of just little things to give it some extra life and covering over. Do you find, because when I build, I like to kind of finish off areas and then move to other ones, and I'm terrible at doing that. I just kind of end up jumping around. Do you find yourself kind of going back and like layering over this stuff, or does this all come from the very beginning?
I definitely jump around a bit too. I feel like anybody would reasonably want to kind of move around and do different things. Otherwise, you might burn out on trying to do something else. But I think that really my process would be I try to do like the big swaths of like maybe like a architecture complex, backstage buildings, pathways maybe where all the details after that, like these vignettes, these peep scenes, the theming on the pathways, that's very much kind of a thing that I do last, mostly because I want to make sure that all the content of the park itself is there, and then put like the crowds in, put the little frozen carts in, the strollers, um, umbrellas, you name it. I try to do those kind of at the tail end.
Makes sense, and I think that really leads to it feeling more lived in. You know, you're gonna size your paths to better fit some of these carts and other things like that, so it doesn't feel too claustrophobic, but it still has a time and place for it. And I like the way that you do path design. It feels very organic with the sort of ebb and flow. I know Sammy's been doing some of this teaching on his fundamental forest series here recently, where it's the pathways are sort of a twofold thing. There's the A to B movement section, and then there's the sort of plaza section, and you have that here, but it's really really organically done, where it just kind of ebbs and flows and grows over here for the seating area, or this over here, or these little fountain elements and everything. It's a really naturalistic feel to it, which I like.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely did try to achieve it. I think honestly, I won't talk about it too much, obviously. Now, if you want to listen to Sammy's video, you certainly can. But the overall macro and placement of things, I really kind of have to give it to you a little bit because I remember, I don't know which park it was on or how long ago it was, but you reviewed one park and mentioned how within a theme park, the pathways typically fall like in a primary, secondary, or tertiary manner, where there'll be like one main thoroughfare with like other paths kind of splintering off from it. And I try to do that with almost every realism build that I have. And if it means having a plaza to kind of cater to an overall vibe, but still having that mindset of what pathway is what, I try to include that with my sight lines in the overall macro. And I think it was something of a success here, I hope, but that was really my main goal.
It may be an influence. All right, well, that's exciting. I love the queue just in general. I think as I've been panning around just looking at stuff, the queue always sort of comes back to me because I always do kind of like your queues, and this is a pretty common thing in your parks. I feel like where it's very much lacking in your typical cattle pens, which you have some of those, but at the same time you got this just like super interactive stuff, like this curved bridge through the cobra roll, up and around this kind of curved section here, through the corkscrew, all of these really really great views of your ride. I mean, it just looks like it was fun to build.
Yes, the queue was certainly one of the more fun things to plan. Definitely tricky around things like the Cobra roll, but it is kind of one of my things. Another kind of trope of my builds is that I typically like to have a pretty long and winding, interesting queue, mostly because it's probably the Disney fan in me. I grew up going to Disney parks, and typically their queue lines are pretty elaborate because the queue should kind of contribute to the overall story of the ride. It should be kind of a prelude to the ride itself and contribute to that experience rather than just a bunch of cattle pens. So I try to make sure that it looks nice, but also kind of leads into a little bit of what the story of the ride is.
Mhm. So we talked about your favorite of the little clickable things, but do you have sort of a detail or something that you added that you don't think a lot of people would typically notice or might miss that you're really proud of or you really like that you'd like to kind of call out?
A detail or something cool that I like. I am fond of maybe the power lines or the vines hanging from the trees, using coaster track with the invisible color. I thought those were pretty cool details that I added kind of at the last minute. I knew the power lines were going to be included like in the village area. That was from the inspiration of the concept art from Animal Kingdom. But I did like the way they come out with the way they came out. I thought it ended up pretty nice.
Yeah, these definitely came as one of the cleaner power lines for sure because it's always that sort of uh, middle ground that you've got to hit of making it sufficiently messy while not really obscuring stuff and looking like it's an actual mess.
Right, yes. It's tricky to tread that line. You don't want to, you want the detail, but you don't want to sacrifice the readability.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So after this one, now that you have this out, so that's pretty exciting. What else is next? I guess you have another one we probably got to review here soon that you just finished another contest winning park. You want to tell us about that?
Sure, yeah. We had a contest over on Dirklink's channel, the multiplayer server for the monthly contests. It was a Giga Coaster contest that I had built with Pacific Coaster. He also was on this one, at least with the coaster layout, but we did more of a 50-50 deal on this one. And that one ended up coming out pretty nice too. It's no custom scenery, but very much in a similar vibe of this tropical setting, great coaster layout. So really excited to see maybe talking about that one soon. Yeah.
Yeah, you got your temples and all that kind of fun stuff in that. That one turned out great. I'll put a link to that down below as well for anybody who wants to see it. So what's next after that? Do you have anything that you are working on or thinking about working on?
I always got something cooking. Yeah, there is a project that I've kind of put on the back burner a little bit. A custom scenery, very much similar to Macaw, in its realism, its themed realism. So hopefully I can wrap that up at some point. Other than that, I don't know. I'm not big on doing parks. I'm such a design guy. I always like to just do like one area and then call it a day.
See, I have such a hard time with that. I love doing designs. Like I have 300 coaster layouts just sort of sitting there waiting ready to go, but I don't ever get to the theming part or if I do the theming, I look at it and say, "Oh, I'd love to expand this out a little bit or make this bigger or make this larger or whatever." And then it just turns into another park that I don't finish. It's very hard for me to just stop.
I've run into the same problem. I mean, for my other like my one of my other designs, Glowworm with Extreme from New Element, I kept on expanding, and it's like why bother just making one area when it can be an entire park? So I get it. It's tough to kind of restrain yourself and not just keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Well, whether it's a design or a park or whatever, it's always good to see your work, and hopefully you will crank out some more of these. But appreciate you jumping on today and talking about this. This is a really good one, I think.
Yeah, awesome, and I'm more than happy to talk about it. Hopefully we can get back together soon and do it again.
Very good. All right. Like I said to everybody, if you'd like to download this park or the other contest winning park, or check out Sammy's interview with Steve, then you can check all those links below. And if you have suggestions for any other parks that you'd like me to take a look at, please let me know in the comments. But until next time, thank you all very much for watching. Thank you to Steve, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye now.
Thank you.